Let's talk about tight end blocking. There are several types of blocks that the tight end will be expected to make. We'll talk about those types of blocks right now, but we won't talk about when to call them until just a little bit later. First of all, let's set up these scenarios. The man to the right is going to be our tight end. The man to the left in all of these scenarios will be the tackle. If we call a Ted block, what we're asking the tight end to do is to block down and allow the tackle to move off to the backside linebacker. Now that's different than the later call because we're not blocking the play side linebacker, we're blocking this backside linebacker. And the tackle will be the one who comes off to make that block. That's called a Ted block. Now we'll use Ted with the 200 and 500 series. Tab block. Again, same scenario with the tight end here and the tackle here. The difference is where the defense is lined up. A tab block asks the tight end to go straight to the inside linebacker. First linebacker inside of him. You can see I have a linebacker here, but he's not inside, he is outside of me. So that first inside linebacker is a tab block, and that means tight end goes to backer. We also have a toss block. Toss block is when the tight end arc releases to the strong safety or to the outside linebacker. Once again, this is my tackle, this is my tight end. Based on this defense right here, my tight end is going to arc release and move up to that strong safety or to that linebacker that's sitting there. That's called a toss. Slam block is similar to what we saw with Ted, but it's really opposite, because instead of the tight end moving here and allowing the tackle to move off to the backside linebacker, we're going to use the tight end to allow the tackle to overtake and let the tight end move up to the play side linebacker. And what that will look like is we're going to chip one bench press to here. We're going to allow that tackle to overtake, and then we're going to move up to the play side linebacker. Those are the types of blocks that we're going to be dealing with today. When we run our 200 and our 500 series, we really have three possibilities as far as the tight end blocking scheme. We have a Ted. We talked about that being tight end blocking down and allowing the tackle to move to the backside linebacker. We also have the possibility of calling tab, which sends my tight end straight to the inside linebacker right now. We also have the possibility of toss, which is the tight end arc releasing to the outside linebacker or to the strong safety. The first thing that we have to do on 500 and on 200 is establish who the end man on the line of scrimmage is, because we will not block the end man on the line of scrimmage. If we have this scenario right here, this is the man that is the inside of the line of scrimmage, or the end man on the line of scrimmage, we will not block him. If he's out here, this man is the end man on the line of scrimmage, we will not block him. If he's in here and we have somebody outside of him, this man would be the end man on the line of scrimmage, we would not block him. So once we establish who the end man on the line of scrimmage is, then we will make a Ted, tab, or a toss call based on the defensive front. In this front, we have a shade, we have a 5, and we have a 9 technique. Now, if we're not blocking the 9 technique because he's the end man on the line of scrimmage, we're simply going to look at our easiest path. Our easiest path, if he's outside, is for us to go inside. If we're going to go inside, we have to ask ourselves, is there a guy in that C gap that is threatening our C gap? The answer is yes. So we're going to call a Ted call. Now Ted is a double team combination with our tackle. We're going to call Ted here. We're going to block down. We're going to let the tackle's going to help us. He's going to give us one bench press on his way to seal the backside linebacker. Now, if I change my front and I move my end man to the, if I move that tackle in here. Now what I'm looking at is, again, end man on the line of scrimmage is out here. Let's move him right here. End man on the line of scrimmage is out here. My easiest path is inside. My easiest release is inside. But there is no C-gap threat. Without the C-gap threat, we're going to call tab. Tab will very, very rarely be called against our offense because of what we run. Tab is probably the least called of the three. We're going to get mostly TEDs. Now, if I change my front again, and I move this guy in here to a 7 technique, I have an outside linebacker or a strong safety. I have this linebacker moving here. We probably have a 3 and a 7 in this situation with an outside linebacker. Now this is a little tricky because sometimes this outside linebacker in this 4-3 look will walk down, or he'll be real tight to the line of scrimmage. We can declare him the end man on the line of scrimmage if he is, within a yard of the line of scrimmage. If he's backed off, we won't declare him. In this case, our easiest path is to the outside. We're going to call toss. It's that simple. This man will be the end man on the line of scrimmage that we're leaving alone. He's going to get kicked out. We are tossing. That is our easiest path. Now, if this young man walks up here and he's tight to the line of scrimmage, he can be a little bit off, 1 yard, yard and a half. In that case, we declare him as the end man on the line of scrimmage. Now we would call what? We would call, easiest path for us to take right now is, if this is the end man, our easiest path is inside. So we would call Ted. We would get help here. Probably wouldn't get much help. And he would go to the backside linebacker. He would seal that backside linebacker. So if this guy walks up and we declare him the end man on the line of scrimmage, we would call Ted. Now these Ted, tab, and toss rules apply to our 200 and our 500 series. Next we have our 300 series. This is our option series. We're really only going to have 2 types of blocks here unless we game plan it differently. We're going to have either a slam block or we're going to arc release. For our 312 and our 313, that's our midline play. And that is when the read player is lined up on, or first man on or outside of the guard. That would be midline. If we're reading the first man on or off the tackle, we call that 314, 315. You hear that also called inside veer. In both of these situations, 312, 313, 314, 315, our job is going to be to outside release and try to influence that contained player out as much as we can on our way up to a safety or to a linebacker inside. And we're going to call that an arc block. We're going to call that an arc block. So if you hear 312, 313, 314, 315, unless we game plan it differently, you're arc releasing up to the next level. However, we do have an outside veer play. An outside veer we call 318 or 319. There's a couple of scenarios that we can have here. We can get a shade, a 5 and a 9 with an inside linebacker here. In this situation, the end man on the line of scrimmage, just like in 200 and 500, we're going to leave him alone because he's our read. He's the read man. Our basic rule for 300 is read, double, and scoop. So we're going to read, double, and these guys are going to scoop. Now, against a shade, a 5 and a 9 technique, we're going to slam block. And remember, slam is different from Ted because now instead of allowing the tackle to move to the backside linebacker, we're going to get one bench press on this inside technique. We're going to allow the tackle to overtake, and we're going to seal the play side linebacker. That is a slam block. It's very important that we get vertical movement right here on this man. We cannot allow him to penetrate. So your rule here on 300 is we have to take care of the down lineman first. If this kid right here is a tough kid and we're having a hard time getting a vertical push on him, you may have to stay on a little bit longer before you seal. If we can get that vertical push will cut this linebacker off anyway. So you're going to stay on, and come off to seal. And remember, we're sealing that play side linebacker. That's our slam block. There are scenarios, however, in 318 and 319 where the read man is a 7 technique. Let's say that we get a 3 and a 7, backside 2-eye. We have linebackers here and here. This would be a 4-3 look. If we've called outside veer, we could still read this guy. He's still lined up on us, so on or outside of the tight end. He's still our read guy. We're going to release. Now, path of least resistance, we can't release inside now. So what we're going to look at is we're going to look at arc releasing up. Okay? That means that you guys are going to call an arc block if you have a 7 technique on 318 or 319. Now, once again, you have this outside linebacker sitting here. If he walks up, you can declare him to be our read man, and we would block down on the 7. So the same rule that we had earlier with our toss. You know, if we have a 7 technique and a guy who's 1 yard or even a little bit outside of us, he would be our read, we can block down. But if not, then we would be arc releasing right here if we get that 7 technique. We would arc release. Path of least resistance. That's our basic rule.